Should the Biden administration be taking a second look at its policy in Israel?
Well, certainly the Biden administration is already taking a second look, specifically at the movement of weapons to Israel that Israel is now using in Hamas. That has already taken place. And as we speak, the Biden administration has, in my view, correctly paused and said no more offensive weapons, no more 2,000 bombs, no more bombs for the indiscriminate destruction that has previously occurred. And you're not going to do it in Rafah, as you have in northern Gaza. So that's where we are, and that's where we should be.
Congressman, if you agree with the administration that this is where policy should be calibrated towards at this moment, obviously the policy is intended to change the behavior of the Israeli government, the decision-making of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu when it comes to Rafah. How confident are you that it will do that?
Well, there are two issues here. They're tied together, but there are two issues. One issue is, should the United States continue to supply offensive weapons that, in my view, Israel has used improperly and inhumanely in Gaza? And the administration has paused and, at this moment, apparently does not intend to allow any more of those weapons to be sent into Israel. That is one thing. The second thing is, certainly Israel has the right to defend itself, but it does not have the right to create a humanitarian crisis. So the conduct of the war is in question here. And the third piece of it is, can Israel just ignore the United States? I would suggest that would not be a smart thing for Israel to do. The United States has been Israel's principal ally for well over 60 years, and we want to continue to be. But we have the Biden administration, and certainly I would agree here, has a very strong disagreement with how Israel is conducting the war in Gaza. And so if Israel wants to go ahead and do whatever it's doing, regardless of the American position, there will be consequences. And that'll be seen in the Congress and undoubtedly seen in the actions of the administration.
Well, what is Israel doing right now, Congressman? You're on the Armed Services Committee, and I wonder what you're actually hearing, to the extent that you can share it with us, about the invasion of Rafah. Shelling has already begun. Israel is already in control of the gates on the Egyptian border. Is it not underway now?
Certainly, it is underway. The question is, what will be the conduct of that current action that Israel is taking in Rafah? The administration has used words which I think are appropriate here. And clearly the administration, and I agree here, Israel cannot do the kind of indiscriminate aerial bombing and wiping out city blocks as they have in northern Gaza. And similarly, the killing of civilians has to stop. Now, Israel, as of a few hours ago, is conducting operations in Rafah, and I suspect they will continue to do so. The question is, how are they going to carry out those military activities? If it's full scale, as they did in the north, not, absolutely no. That is horrendous. It's wrong. It's inhumane. The other issue here is the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza, both the Rafah area as well as northern Gaza. Israel has choked off, throttled down the flow of aid. And that's been ongoing now for several months, creating a humanitarian crisis, starvation, as well as medical issues. That has to stop. It got so bad that the United States thought that it could and is in the process of building a new pier to deliver the humanitarian aid from the sea. That's not going to work. The problem is Israel is not allowing humanitarian aid. So we have two things here. One is the flow of humanitarian aid, or the insufficient flow of humanitarian aid. And the second is the conduct of the war. The war that in the early months up until just even to this last couple of weeks has been conducted in northern Gaza in a way that is simply wrong. There is no justification for the kind of destruction, aerial bombing, indiscriminate destruction, and the loss of 30,000 or more civilian lives. There's no justification for that.
Well, Congressman, on that exact point, there are already more than 30,000 Palestinian lives that have been lost in this conflict. We did not see the administration take this kind of action until now, especially for voters in your party who may be very much in disagreement with the administration over this issue. Is it too little, too late?
Well, certainly for those that have died, the answer is absolutely yes. It is too little, too late. Could it have changed earlier? I know that I and many other members of Congress said the very first day of the Israeli offense, Israel lost the war because of the indiscriminate bombing that was occurring on the first day of this war. And it continued from there to where we are today. It cannot continue in Rafah, period. It cannot. It has to stop. Now, there are ways in which Hamas can be dealt with in Rafah without the kind of things that we saw in northern Gaza. And Israel can and has been instructed by American military who have experienced this very same problem in Iraq and Afghanistan. Is there a better way to do it? Yes. Is there a good way to do it? There's no good way to conduct a war, but there are better ways of doing it. And certainly we cannot see what has happened in the north. Should it have stopped? It should have never started. Israel has a right to protect itself. It has a right to go after Gaza, after Hamas, but it does not have a right to do the indiscriminate warfare that has occurred.